Today we're diving into a really wild but super specific long-range forecast for our sun. It's a maverick theory for sure, one that claims to have finally cracked the code of solar cycles. And its predictions for the next few years, they're a direct challenge to what most scientists are saying. And look, with solar activity affecting everything from our power grids to satellites, this is one forecast that's definitely worth a closer look.
It all kicks off with a mystery, wrapped up in a pretty provocative claim. This quote comes from a researcher named Mathis, and get this, it's dated to the near future, February 2026. He's basically alleging a deliberate cover-up of solar activity. I mean, what on earth could lead someone to make such a bold accusation?
Well, this is the scene that starts it all. On one side, you have an official report claiming 0 sunspots, a totally quiet, boring sun. But then, you look at a NASA photo from the exact same day, and whoa, the sun is buzzing with activity. The author of this theory says you can see at least 9 major active areas. So this contradiction, right here, is the foundation for everything. Why would the official count be 0 when the sun clearly looked like this?
So, how do you explain that kind of discrepancy? Well, it all leads to this maverick solar theory that points to a very surprising culprit, the planets themselves.
The first big clue for this whole theory is a numerical match that's, well, pretty hard to ignore. We all know the average solar cycle is about 11 years long, and Jupiter's orbital period? Just under 12 years. The whole argument here is that this is no coincidence. It's the primary hint that the giant planets are the real drivers of the solar cycle. At the heart of it all is something called the charge field theory. Now, it proposes that the sun's cycles aren't actually driven by what's going on inside its core. Instead, it's a physical feedback loop of charged particles being exchanged with the 4 giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So think of it less like astrology and more like a giant solar system-wide electrical circuit.
But the planets aren't the whole story. The theory zooms way out, proposing a kind of cosmic rhythm that sets the stage for everything else. This is the galactic baseline.
So the model really has 2 main parts. First, I want you to imagine a constant river of charge flowing into our solar system from the center of the galaxy. That's your baseline. Then, as the planets move around and line up, they act like dams or channels in that river, either boosting the flow or weakening it. It's that interplay that really dictates how active the sun gets.
And this right here is a really crucial detail. See, a planetary alignment isn't automatically powerful. Its real impact, its ability to create a major solar peak, all depends on its orientation. If the planets line up with that incoming galactic charge stream, their effect gets amplified, big time. But if they're at a right angle to it, the effect is much, much weaker.
Okay, so what happens when you take this whole model, the galactic baseline, and the planetary alignments, and apply it to our current cycle? You get a very specific and very interesting forecast for cycle 25. Let's take a look at the years ahead.
This graph is basically the roadmap, and it lays out a prediction that just completely goes against many of the mainstream forecasts. Instead of a weak cycle, it predicts a long and strong solar cycle 25. And you'll notice it's not a simple bell curve, right? It's more like a broad, lumpy hill with several distinct peaks. Each of those humps is tied to a specific planetary alignment.
All right, let's break this down, because this is the real meat of the forecast. What's coming next? The theory points to a major peak right around February and March of 2026, supposedly driven by a Saturn-Neptune alignment. But that's not even the big one. In 2027, we're told to expect the highest peak of the entire cycle. And the activity doesn't stop there. More significant peaks are predicted for September 2028 and then again in 2029. We're talking about a really long, extended solar maximum before this cycle finally starts to wind down.
And the forecast doesn't just stop at the end of this cycle. No, it looks even further ahead, predicting what the next cycle has in store for us.
According to this forecast, the next solar minimum should hit around 2031 to 2032. But here's the thing. Unlike that super deep and long minimum we had back around 2018, this next one is predicted to be pretty mild. The sun's baseline activity should stay well above 0.
Now, to really understand this next prediction, we need a little historical context. Let's talk about the solar maximum of 1958. It was an absolute monster, one of the most powerful and active cycles in recorded history, with sunspot numbers just going through the roof.
And here it is, the boldest claim of them all. This model predicts that the next cycle, solar cycle 26 in the 2030s, will be even stronger than the one we're in now.
And not just a little stronger, we're talking about a planetary setup that could produce a solar maximum that rivals that historic monster peak from 1958. A cycle that powerful would have some pretty serious effects on our technology, that's for sure.
So, where does all this leave us? Is this some radical new model that finally explains the sun's rhythm? Or is it just a really elaborate series of cosmic coincidences? The most compelling part is that this isn't just some abstract theory. It's a detailed forecast with specific dates and predictions. So whether it's right or wrong, well, that's something we're all going to find out together, year by year, just by watching the sun.